Hello everybody, Madam Skullbunny here. I wanted to apologise for how long it's been in between uploads. Real life has been a bit of a bitch and gotten in the way of what I want to be doing, but I hope to be getting back in the swing of things very soon. I got to a point where I started to feel like I was just a witness to the events of my life, and things weren't actually happening to me, but I'm regaining control of it now. Thank you to those of you who stuck around through this annoying hiatus. I'll do my best not to let this happen again without warning. Alright, enough rambling. On with the story. Good evening, No Sleep. A few months ago, my girlfriend and I moved into a new apartment. It's a bit on the edge of our price range, but our previous place was plagued with all kinds of issues, the most alarming of which was a severe bedbug infestation. For those of you who have not had bedbugs before, let me assure you that it is the kind of experience that will make you more than willing to splurge on your next place. So, there we were, living in a high-rise at the edge of downtown of our mid-sized American city. It was 24 floors, had a great lobby area, pool, top-notch fitness room. So basically it was an apartment building with hotel amenities. In the first few months, we had absolutely no problems at all. We had people over a lot once we were able to acquire new furniture. We didn't dare bring anything but clothes that had been run through the laundry twice with us from the old place. We had cookouts on the propane grills that the building provided on the patio area. We had a few drinks in the hot tub after learning that the rules about alcohol in the pool area were not actually followed by anyone. Overall, it was great. But last night, I had an experience that made me almost miss the bedbugs and the subsequent sleepless nights and dozens of ugly red splotches on my skin. Almost. I'm not quite to that point yet. Seriously, bedbugs are the worst. I was getting home from a night out with some friends and stumbled into the lobby to call an elevator. We only live on the 4th floor, but for whatever reason the stairs are inaccessible from the ground floor. It's probably for security reasons to make everyone use the elevators, which have cameras. This perplexity got to me that night, and I decided to go and see if my apartment's key or my mail key would actually open the stairwell door off of the fitness area. It didn't, of course. As I turned the corner back to the lobby area, the elevator arrived and I heard the friendly ping noise. The door was opening as I came around the corner, and I made it in without having to interrupt the door's timing mechanism to close. Once I got in, I pushed the 4 button, and then realized I wasn't alone. There was a woman standing in the corner of the elevator. I was surprised, given that I hadn't seen anyone get in the elevator before I did, and it would make sense that if she'd been riding down, she would have gotten off at the lobby. None of the other buttons on the panel were lit up, and I glanced at her and then back to the buttons. She had her head leaned slightly back as if she was looking up at the corner of where the door met the ceiling of the elevator. Her eyes were closed. Excuse me, do you need me to push a button for you? I asked. Her head snapped back to a neutral position, and I almost readied myself for self-defense based on how strange the situation seemed. By now, the elevator was slowing as it reached my floor. The girl, who was not at all physically imposing, opened her eyes fully. They were green. She stood about 5'4", I think, had straight brown hair, tan skin, and wore black leggings and a beige cardigan over a grey tank top. In a normal scenario, I would have thought she was hot. She made eye contact with me and slowly leaned over to the panel, pushing 24, and then leaning back to her previous location. The door opened to my floor and I stepped out while being careful not to look away from her. Well, have a good night, I managed to say as I stepped off. As I stepped into the hallway, I lost sight of her in the corner of the elevator. But then I didn't. She leaned sideways in a very unnatural, uncomfortable-looking way to watch me as I walked down the hallway. I was about 3 doors down when I heard her finally speak with a voice that was somehow both menacingly monotonous and strangely seductive. Good night. Have one. I tried to dismiss that night as just an anomaly. The woman was probably just very drunk, or maybe she was just an oddball in general. Still, she hadn't actually physically threatened me or done anything that should have made me so wary. I don't know, she just gave off a very uneasy vibe. Tonight my concerns seemed to be more confirmed. I decided to go up onto the rooftop of my building to have a beer and enjoy the view of the city. My girlfriend came with me, but she had decided to head back down to the apartment a few minutes before me. I finished my beer, stowed the bottle in my pocket in case I ran into someone from building management on the way — we technically aren't supposed to drink on the rooftop either — and went down the stairs to the 24th floor where I called the elevator. As the door opened, I saw a pretty unwelcome sight. That same woman was in the elevator. This time, she was wearing a yellow sundress. From an objective perspective, she actually looked ridiculously attractive, but frankly, I had never been less attracted to someone. She was looking up at the ceiling again. It made me nervous to have to walk past her to get into the elevator, but I did. I could have just let the elevator go by and either called a different one, or maybe even taken the stairs 20 floors down. But I got on, thinking that I was being foolish. Once again, the 4 that I pressed was the only button lit up on the panel. I thought about asking the girl if she needed help with anything, but I didn't want to say anything after how strange last night had been. I urged the elevator to go faster. They were actually pretty fast, as elevators in tall buildings tend to be, but it had never seemed slower than tonight. I was glancing down at my phone, but that's when I realized something. The woman had moved about half a foot closer to me. I was standing in the corner of the elevator, the one that she had been in the night before, while she was on the opposite side when I'd gotten in. But now she was closer, more towards the middle. I put my phone in my pocket and watched her. She was slowly shuffling sideways in my direction. She would turn one of her feet sideways on its heel, then lift the heel and turn the foot on her toe to slowly move over. "Are you all right?" I finally said, trying to sound as strong and confident as possible. Once again her head snapped back to a neutral position and those eyes locked on me. "Are you all right?" she asked me. I had goosebumps at this point. She had stopped moving towards me, but having her facing me was even worse. There was just something off about her. She was breathing very heavily all of a sudden. Her breasts were small, but they were heaving up and down under the low cut of her dress. "Are you all right?" she asked again, louder. I'm okay, I think," I stammered. Her facial expression changed for the first time. She smiled, her lips curling slightly upwards, and her head tilting slightly to the side. The elevator arrived at my floor, and I turned to shuffle sideways past her. She watched me with a smile as I went, and as I reached the door, she leaned forward and pressed both the 1 and the 24 buttons on the panel. And then she whispered something to me as the door was closing. "Help me help you." I don't know what to think about the whole situation. Based on what she whispered to me, I'm starting to think that she doesn't mean me any harm. Am I possibly dealing with some sort of spirit or ghost? The fact that she was wearing different clothes makes me think it's a real person. I've never heard of a ghost or spirit changing clothes. Anyway, I'm pretty unsettled by this whole situation. I'm hoping that it's possible that I'm just dealing with someone who lives in the building and was either drunk out of her mind 2 nights in a row, or maybe had some mental issues. But something tells me that it's something more.